Welcome to Being Me. I'm Ruthie Tessler, one of the hosts of the BeingMe podcast. And today I'm joined with my co-host, BeMe Youth Ambassador, Juan Bendana. We're also joined by my friend and co-host, Nikita Patrick. Juan, tell us a little bit about yourself. And we need to know, what's on the top of your Spotify playlist right now?
Oh, put me on the spot. What is up, everyone? A little bit about me is I was the kid that really had like no direction or clarity in my life and constantly tried to fit in every single relationship, friend group, social dynamic. And I really struggled, but no one really knew. And I've worked for the past decade in the space of helping students figure out sort of their next step and finding ways to take care of themselves. And that's why I think what BeMe does is so important, because it provides that support for students that feel like they don't have any. And that was the experience that I had. So now I speak to around 100,000 students every single year at conferences internationally and work with BeMe and creating meaningful content for students. And what is on my Spotify playlist most recently, like I'm really into Spanish music. That's kind of my jam. So like I'll literally like Colombia top 50 has been something that has been on my playlist for quite some time. And being from Toronto, Canada, definitely some Drake if I'm at the gym. Yeah. So what about you guys? You remember when they did that top streamed artists and your top streamed songs? That like Spotify year in review? What would be both of yours?
So I'm an Apple Music gal. Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me. But
dicey.
But I would say my top few artists right now, I'm really into Phoebe Bridgers and Boy Genius and all of them. I actually just saw them in concert. I really like Omar Apollo and Bartees Strange. And I like Renee Rapp and Lizzie McAlpine as well. So those are my top few people right now.
Awesome. Love that. Nikita?
I would say I'm really into MGMT and the Heartless Bastards right now. I like to mix my genres and it just depends on my mood really. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, before we dive in to the topic, I feel like it's important. So, we hear so many adults and teachers and people talk about teens or talk about students. And I feel like this could be a good opportunity to see sort of like in the new world that we're navigating, what is top of mind for both of you? What do you feel adults, teachers, parents, people need to know about being a teenager, being a student in 2023? Because I feel like the perception of what adults think is going on is so far from the reality of what's going on. So what is life like in 2023 as a student, but also like, what are the things that you're constantly thinking about in any given week? We'll start with you, Ruthie.
So I think whether you're in our generation or you're older, the first thing that comes to your mind as living as a teenager in 2023 is technology and the impact that that's making on our lives and the way we're being raised. And that, I think, plays a big role in mental health. But at the same time, we're still teenagers like any other generation was. And I think technology, if anything, has just amplified our struggles with all of its correlations to anxiety and depression, which is tough. But another thing that I think adds to stress in teenagers' life right now is college admissions and how intense it's gotten, especially in the US. Just the overall competitiveness of school and how, at least for me, I know it's different for everyone else, but school has been my whole life for the past year. At least my junior year of high school has just been tough.
And Nikita, what about you?
Yeah, I can really resonate with the struggles of school and how everything is really placed on your shoulders as of junior year. There's a lot of pressure to do your best, and college is such a big part of your year's learning. College is up there for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that's so prevalent in the minds of students. They're always thinking about what their next 5 or 7 things that they need to do. And it's funny because adults wonder why students are so stressed, or parents wonder why they're dealing with so much when they have no idea the amount of pressure that is on the shoulders of students, even starting in like sophomore year. There's a lot of students that are freshmen, sophomores that have this expectation of, well, you need to have your path carved out. And with the average college student changing their major 4 times in a 4-year span, the average college student changes their major 4 times. So it's like we have never been more confused, and there's so much pressure to make a decision to have some clarity when everything is wildly confusing. So with that being said, it's summer. We're going into summer. It's like, let's have our amazing time with friends and whatnot. But there's also, and a lot of the conversations I've been having with students recently at events and at conferences, they're wondering how to use the summer effectively and to be productive and to move towards their goals. I'll start with you, Ruthie. And what are you hearing from your friends to avoid the summer slump? And I think it was mentioned that you and Nikita did like a survey with your friends. Can you like talk about that a little bit?
Nikita and I had the idea to ask around in our school group chat, on our Snapchat stories about what everyone's plans are for the summer. More importantly, we're in a neighborhood where a lot of people go away over the summer, but our survey was focused on what they're doing in their time at home, whether they were home for a week or whether they were home all summer, what they were doing to make sure that they were staying active during those days home, because majority of kids stay home all summer. So we want to make sure we're productive during those times. We had 43 responses. Over 60% of them are working a job over the summer. And when I asked, how do you plan on staying physically active? A lot of them are playing sports. Most of them are going to the gym, and a lot of them walking and biking and doing a lot of other things. And then everyone plans on spending some time with their family and friends. There's a lot of more interesting things that I would like Nikita to talk about from our survey.
Yeah, so as much as students love to complain about the struggles of school and how hard it is and the homework and the workload, once summer hits, there's a lot of empty time. It can leave a big question mark for a lot of students. And filling your time can be quite difficult if friends are away or there's just not much going on. And finding a hobby and just a passion, a hobby, any activity to fill your time, like that's what we're trying to figure out here, is like how that can be solved.
So we have a lot of people volunteering, playing sports, doing internships, studying for the SAT and the ACT, getting ahead of their summer work, writing essays for college. This is all from the survey. Hanging out with friends, which is so important. And that is so productive. And we don't talk about that, just leisure time and just recreational activities, seeing your friends, going to the beach, traveling. That's also something that can be productive and get you out of that slump that you see over the summer. And if you're balanced in that and you're having fun, you will find yourself being more productive in the time that you're not with your friends. Yeah, I think that's all on the survey.
Love that.
Juan, what are some common challenges teens face during the summer break, and how can they overcome them to stay motivated and productive?
What I think happens to most students, which both of you sort of mentioned, is they have this abundance of time available. They have so much free time that often we have no idea what to do with. And I find that when you have a lot of time and you're not using it, it feels like you're stuck because there is no forward momentum. I think one of the most important things to break out of that slump, like motivation comes from movement. You have to get going and doing something, whether that is playing a sport or hanging out with friends or doing something. But when you're sitting still, and that's why I never recommend when a teen is like, I have so much free time, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to do nothing. Doing nothing oftentimes makes you hesitate on what to do. And then that hesitation leads to the feeling stuck, thus feeling unmotivated. So I think to be productive and to stay motivated, you've got to stay doing things and you have to fill your days with things. So you get to the end of the day and you're like, I got a lot done, even if it was hanging with friends or going for a bike ride or watching my favorite show with my fam or like whatever it may be. But I think boredom is what we want to move away from. We want to move towards doing a lot of things and not having Netflix ask us, are you still watching? Like, we don't really want that to happen, is what I think.
That's really good advice, Juan. Can you share some tips on how teens can balance relaxation and productivity during the summer break? What can they do to ensure that they don't feel overwhelmed?
I think it really will come down to defining a direction and an outcome for your summer. There's some students that are going to be studying for the LSATs or the SATs, or they're going to be applying for an internship or maybe working in an internship. And that summer is going to be very different than the student that just wants to enjoy their summer. Neither of those options are wrong. So you have to balance your version of summer and not feel bad about yourself because you're comparing your version to someone else's. I find that the big mistake that a lot of students make is that they try and live and have a summer that is similar to someone else because that's their version of success. When the reality is, like, set your target, set your direction, set where you want to go, and then have your productivity moments, have the moments where you get things done paired with moments that you can actually enjoy, and schedule the enjoyment first. Schedule the relaxation first, schedule the sleep first, and then fill in the productivity afterwards.
Yeah, so summer break is all about having fun for a lot of people. How can teenagers discover their passions and interests over summer break? What activities or resources do you know of that can help them explore these areas?
I honestly think it is trying as many things as humanly possible. I get this question a lot. How do I find my passion? You don't go to Bali to find yourself. You don't find your passion under a rock. You create your passion through the process of trying different things over and over and over again. So it's like, I don't know what I should be doing to having fun. I don't even know what fun is. I don't even know how I can have fun. Okay, great. Try a bunch of different things. If you're not really sure what sport you like, try a bunch of them. If you're not sure what kind of books you like, read 3 or 4 different genres. I think the process of finding what you enjoy comes from trying things that you both enjoy and other things that you simply don't. So I think in finding and discovering that passion, it comes from that forward momentum of putting yourself in different environments and putting yourself into those different moments. Nikita, what do you think about that? Like, how do you balance having fun with setting goals for the year, being productive, spending time relaxing? Like, how do you balance that for you?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be traveling, but with traveling, there's not a lot of free time at all. So this past year, I've been really forced to face this issue of exactly that, balancing work and leisure time. And I found that it's no one's problem but my own. I can't rely on my parents anymore to just make me do my work, but I need to create my future. So what I found that works is setting up a plan, just have a schedule for when I need to complete certain works. And that's what's worked for me so far. I just have my schedule and I go by that. And I allow myself to have my fun, my free time. Like, this is my summer. I've deserved this, but I still need to keep myself accountable.
Thanks, Nikita. I totally agree with the allotting a little bit of time every day over the summer totally works for most people with summer work. But Juan, what are some practical ways for teens to maintain a consistent routine and avoid falling into a pattern of laziness and boredom during the summer break? Is sleeping till noon really that bad?
Ooh, hot take. Yes and no. It's bad if it is going to significantly impact your mindset in a negative way, thinking I'm a failure, I shouldn't have slept in, I'm lazy. But if it does not, and you needed that rest, then great. A lot of people have this like arbitrary view of a morning routine needs to start at this time or this time. It's situation specific. It is for the person. So I think what matters in building consistency and having a routine where it's more on track is basing your actions on your goals, not necessarily based on the way that you feel. Where a lot of people like, I feel tired, so I'm going to act in a way that's tired. Or I feel exhausted, so I'm going to act in alignment with that. As opposed to, I have these goals. I want to run a sub 5-minute mile. I want to get into this school. I want to act. Okay, what are the actions that are going to get you there? What's that actually going to take? And it's not to say that you have to wake up at 4 a.m. and do an ice cold shower every morning in summer. Like, you should enjoy your summer, but also look at the goals that you have for the summer. Where do you want to be in August or September? And are the things you're doing going to get you there? If they're not, you clearly need to change behavior.
Yeah, I agree. And sleep can be so important sometimes. So we should never feel ashamed of taking a nap during the middle of the day. Still be productive. We asked our BeMe Teen Advisory Board if they had any questions for you. And the number one question was, what advice do you have for teens who feel overwhelmed by the pressure to make the most of their summer break?
Overwhelm oftentimes is a feeling of, I'm not going to be able to handle it. It's too much. And I think for any student that's feeling a little bit of that overwhelm and that pressure is a privilege. There was a coach of a famous basketball team that won a championship with a team that should not have won a championship. And he talks about this idea that pressure is a privilege. A lot of people run away from pressure, but pressure, it creates challenge, and challenge leads you to grow. So the first thing I would say is that pressure isn't necessarily a bad thing, but also that overwhelmed feeling of like, this is too much. No, it's not too much. It's that you've just got to get better. You've just got to improve. Because for someone that is growth oriented, for someone that wants to be able to take more on than they can necessarily handle, that is how you grow. You do not grow by taking on exactly what you're comfortable with. You grow by stretching just beyond that, just beyond what you find comfortable. So I think a little bit of that overwhelm, a little bit of that pressure is actually a good thing. There's something called EU. Most people don't know this. EU stress. EU stress. Literally EU stress. It is one word, and it's the other kind of stress no one talks about. It's the stress that is defined as beneficial for the end user. When you go to the gym and you squat, that is kind of stressful, but it's stress that then creates more muscle. It's beneficial to the end user. So there is some stress that is actually good for you, that actually contributes to your growth. So I would say, don't be afraid of the overwhelm. Don't be afraid of the pressure, because it is those pressure moments that make great performers, that make great people. And with no pressures, you got no diamonds. So yeah, I think it could be a good thing.
Okay, that was really insightful. Thank you. So here's another question from our Teen Advisory Board. What are some creative ways for teens to engage with their communities or volunteer during the summer break? How can they make a positive impact while also having fun?
I would say two things. Number one is there's so many events happening all summer long in rural cities and major cities and towns. So get involved with those events and be a part of putting them on, be a part of making them happen. And yeah, those are one-off things, but those are just incredible experiences to get and be a part of the community. Number two, and I'm actually going to give you three. Number two is find a local business or an entrepreneur or a company that is looking to bring someone in as a volunteer or as an intern or someone that can come and help over the summer, because that is going to give you, they're going to give you tasks that you're not necessarily ready for, that you're not really sure of, and your growth trajectory is going to be wild. And then the third is, I would say, volunteer with a group that is less fortunate. Volunteer at a senior home. If you want to get perspective, I feel like not just students, adults, humans suffer wildly from a lack of perspective. People get upset when someone gets their Starbucks drink order wrong. And there's people that are in their 80s and in their 90s that don't have much time left, and their perspective of life is unbelievably valuable. Or go volunteer at a homeless shelter. I remember one of the most impactful experience that I had was volunteering and making food and working in the kitchen of a homeless shelter here in Toronto. I would go in for 3 or 4 hours and I would like cut vegetables and I would cook food. And you see people that it just allows you not to take the things that you have for granted, because our problems that we have are things that other people would be grateful for. And I'm not saying that as like being overly optimistic. That's just the truth. A lot of times we have no perspective on our problems, and it's not to discount the things that we're going through, but sometimes we just need a healthy dose of perspective. So those are the 3 things that I'd say.
Wow, thank you. So we talked about technology and how that has impacted lives of teenagers today. Can you tell us about how you spent your summer break as a teenager? How did you balance having fun and doing things that set you up for a good future?
Oh my gosh. So I'm 29. So I remember Instagram came out when I was in grade 11, when I was a junior. I remember in high school, we didn't have Snap and Instagram and TikTok. And like, we didn't have any of those until junior year. And then Instagram came out and that's really like, it just went crazy. But I remember how I spent the summer was just avidly trying with my friends to do the most insane like stunts of like, we'd go like mountain biking and we go skateboarding. And like, I remember my brother broke his leg and I broke my arm, and we'd go snowboarding. Like, it was just insanity because we had nothing else better to do. But what I found was that we would spend a lot of time, my friends and I, every weekend, we would just go to people's houses. We would do bonfires. We would just hang out. Yeah, we had phones, but it wasn't like a thing where you go to a restaurant, you see 4 people sitting by themselves on their phone, just saying that they're at the same table and they're not actually having dinner together. And I feel like I'm a big fan of social. I'm a big fan of this. And I'm really stoked about having a phone, and it's awesome and it's amazing. And I love technology. That being said, I feel like people are becoming more disconnected than they have, which is leading to loneliness and social isolation. Just to give you an idea, the research on friends decades ago was based on your 5 closest friends. 5. Now, the research today is based on your 1 closest friend, because they can no longer do those studies because people don't have 5 close friends. That's really sad. So how I kind of bring that into today and how I balance that today is when my friends and I, when we go out to dinners here in Toronto, whenever we're out, we were just in Miami and we rented like a yacht and there was like 20 of us. Everyone puts their phones in the middle of the table, and the first person to touch their phone has to pay for everyone. That's what we do. Like when we're having the experience, people put their phones away, because I see even adults, there are 4, 5, 6 people at a dinner table and they're all on their phone. And that just isn't the kind of life that I want to live. So that's kind of my hot take on that.
So one more question from the BeMe team advisory board. This question is a tough one, Juan. So the question is, how do you avoid getting bored and feeling useless and stuck at home all day?
Schedule things in advance as your best self. Everyone has had moments where they feel amazing, where they feel great, or you just randomly feel inspired and you're like, this is going to be a freaking great day. Everyone's had that. You want to schedule your time from that place. You want to schedule your day when you're feeling awesome. So when you feel awesome, you will schedule things and you'll have the energy and the enthusiasm to make those things happen. And I would highly recommend for anyone that wants to get the most out of their summer, that wants to get the most out of their life, to have some form of a calendar, whether it's Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, a literal journal that you just write in. Just have something, because when you have nothing, your mind just kind of fills that with dead space. It fills that with dead air. And then you're like, oh, I guess I don't know what to do. And then that lack of clarity leads to you doing nothing. So I think it's building a plan in advance and saying, this week, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to act regardless of how tired I am or how I feel. I'm just going to do this because I want to make the most out of my summer.
Yeah, I think not doing anything can lead to some feelings of uselessness. You're not feeling confident about yourself. In your last podcast, you talked a lot about confidence. Can you share some advice to teens about how they can use their summer break to build their confidence?
Yeah, build your skill. Get better at something. I don't care if it's knitting. I don't care if it's longboarding. Develop yourself. I don't care if it's an instrument. I don't care if you read something. When you develop and you get better at something, at anything, it tells your brain, oh, I have more reasons to feel confident about myself. See, confidence is something that you earn. It's not something that you're given. And you earn it through the process of improving and drawing the line of where you were and where you are now. So, of course, you're not going to feel confident at piano if you've never played a chord properly. Of course, you're not going to feel confident at talking to the girl or guy you like if you've never approached someone and said, hi, we should go on a date. You're not going to feel confident in that. So I think when it comes to confidence, take the summer as like a deep dive into building your skill set. Get better. Become a better version of you. Be that person. I remember in high school, I would come back from summer break and there was always that 1 or 2 or 3 people that came back and they were just different. They were like in better shape. Their skin was finally clear. They like grew like 4 inches in height. And people were like, what happened to Natalie? It was a different thing. Be that person. Literally be Natalie. I remember those people because they came and they were like, I'm going to have a few months. I'm going to get better. I'm going to grow. I'm going to improve. So I think that is at the foundation of building confidence, is finding the skill set that you're going to build and committing to building it.
Definitely.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that challenging yourself really just boosts your confidence. Earlier, you asked us about what it means to be a teen in 2023, but you also have an opportunity to speak to a lot of teens. What are you hearing from these teens?
I think the number one thing is I'm just trying to fit in. I'm just trying to be a part of a group. I feel like people right now, we've been in a few years of social isolation and people are unbelievably socially awkward. And it is very hard to make friends. To give you an idea, I have a friend that couldn't even talk to a girl that he liked at the gym. He couldn't approach her in person. And he's an attractive dude. And he has some confidence. Here's the thing. I tell students this all the time. It's not that you're not confident. You're just out of practice. It's not that you're not motivated. You're just out of practice. It's not that you're lazy. You're just out of practice of the right things. When you start doing the right things over a long enough period of time, your life starts to change. So I think it's people are really stuck on trying to figure out how they can fit in. And I think if they focus more on how can they be the best version of themselves, they'll naturally find where they fit.
Yeah, I think Nikita and I can understand the not being able to approach people and talk to people sort of thing. But moving on, what questions do you get in your DMs after one of your presentations? What types of problems are teens facing today?
A lot of the questions are like, I have this girl or guy that I want to talk to. How do I do it? And I'm like, take 5 deep breaths and just go say hi. Yeah, I get a lot of the, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. What do I do? And I think to that point, I think people try and find out what they want their life to become way too early. And they don't give themselves time or the opportunity to try a bunch of different things and see what fits and see what sticks. And they try and deterministically find the thing that is going to be their life forever. And I just don't think that's how life works. I think life is like going to the mall on a shopping spree and trying on a bunch of different pairs of pants. Typically, when you try on pants, I don't know about you, but they never fit the first time. You try them on and you're like, whoa, this is terrible. And then you try on other fits. And then you're like boot cut, maybe skinny. No, I'm not a punk rocker. Maybe like slim fit, and then you find out what works best for you. And I think that's a process people got to lean into a little more.
Totally. And I think it's important to understand that sometimes you may fall into a certain rhythm, but then it no longer serves you, and that's okay. You don't need to stick with one thing just because you've been doing it for so long. Before we go, Juan, what advice would you like to leave our teen listeners today about summer break?
No one is going to change your life for you. Effort is unbelievably underrated. And if you want something, regardless of how unrealistic it may be unrealistic with the goals that you set, but be realistic in the actions that you need to take to get there. Put in the daily effort, and occasionally perfect isn't the goal. Consistently good is. Consistently good beats occasionally perfect every day of the week.
Yes. This was a great conversation. Juan and Nikita, thank you both for sharing your thoughts and advice with all of our BeMe teens. Until next time, this is Ruthie Tessler with my co-hosts Juan Bendana and Nikita Patrick, reminding you to keep being you. The BeingMe podcast is a BeMe studio production. Learn more about BeMe Health and our teen wellness app built with teens in mind at BeMe.com.